Clear Reads, Cleveland Water's automated meter reading project, is coming to your neighborhood soon. This project will allow us to obtain meter reading without coming to your home or business. It will also improve service while being cost effective. Other Clear Reads benefits are reduces estimated reads, increases accuracy, enhances customer service, provides leak detection, plus much more. For more information, visit www.clevelandwater.com/clearreads.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of Neighborhood News. TV 20 trying to keep you in contact, you connected to what's going on in your own community and, of course, your own neighborhood. With us today is Cleveland City Councilman Joe Cimperman, who represents the 3rd Ward in Cleveland. Joe, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
We were joking before we started the show because I said to you, do you ever sleep? You represent downtown, midtown, you represent Ohio City. Yeah. There's so much happening in your different wards, not to mention the neighborhoods. Yeah. How in the world do you accomplish your goals and what you really want to see done in Ward 3?
Well, you know, I'm very lucky because I think I have some of the hardest working, most energetic constituents who really teach me every day what it means to be a servant leader. They're wonderful people who have shown a lot of initiative. I'll give you an example. In Tremont, we have a group of residents who got together about 10 years ago, and they wanted to rebuild their park, right? Seemingly basic idea, sounds like a good plan. And what they did was they started organizing, they started working with the city, and now through the generosity and the support of Mayor Frank Jackson, they've got about $3.2 million worth of park improvements that are going to start happening this year. And it all came from a group of citizens who said, we want to improve the community for our kids, for our seniors. And I tell people that, you know, when you look at people like Beverly Worm who did that, people in Tremont, that people power is so critical. You see it now at the West Side Market. God bless the West Side Market, and God bless the region for waking up to it. What happened with the fire was terrible. Right. We have to get those 2 stands up and running as quickly as possible. And I know that the mayor's working on that, but I will tell you right now, Jack, we have seen a marked improvement every single Saturday since the fire happened. And I think it's because people in our town and our community said, we can't take this for granted. They're going to start showing up. Right. That's the Cleveland that I know and love. And I just love to see that. So when you've got that kind of activity and that kind of intensity, there's really no room to sleep.
You make me tired just hearing about all that's going on.
Did you say I make you? I'll bore you. It's what I'll do. I'll just bore you with it.
I'm going to take a nap after we're done here. So I hope my boss doesn't get me in, I get myself in trouble taking a nap on the job. Also, Councilman, there is the flats, and there's a lot going on down in the flats. Bring us up to date on just a couple of the things on your plate right now having to do with the flats. It's really exciting.
It is. You know, we've got the Flats East Bank project through the Wolstein family, you know, being led right now by Adam Fishman, where we are going to have new offices, new retail, new hotels. You know, it's going to be opening this summer and spring. You know, in June, we think we're going to have the big time when everyone's going to be there. You've got a 13-acre park that's down there. You've got the Towpath Trail, which is finally winding its way up from Zorro, Ohio to the lake. We finally figured out a way to get over the river near to Whiskey Island. Now we got to figure out how to get over the railroad tracks with a bike path, and we're almost there. You've got the skate park, which is being built. You've got phenomenal businesses like the Flatiron Cafe, which has been serving the best perch sandwiches for lunch, you know, for generations.
You know.
Right? I do, too well, right? And then you've got, like, you know, ArcelorMittal, you've got your salt, you know, the salt mines. The Flats is really where Cleveland started, and I tell people that by doing what we're doing right now in terms of bringing all the land uses together, the Flats is where Cleveland's going to start again. Right. It's got a mythical place in our hearts. Right. So a lot of people met their loved ones there, their sweethearts. A lot of people enjoyed their college years down there. A lot of people had their first jobs down there. What I want to see for my kids and my kids' kids is that the Flats is a place where you can go and enjoy the best of Cleveland, whether it's the iron ore freighters that are coming down the river and you see what makes Cleveland strong, or you see the rowers who are in their boats, acting healthy, doing what they have to do, you know, to continue doing that. The Flats is such a beautiful, almost primordial place, you know, and it's just this unbelievable opportunity where people see where the East and West comes together. And, you know, we've tried now with a new organization to try to make sure that the industrial, the maritime, the commercial, the residential, the entertainment, and the recreational are working together. We finally have it, and we've called it Flats Forward, and what you're going to see is a lot more positive progress of growth. You know, I want factories to open up again down there. I want more people to ride their bikes down there. What are some of the things we have to do, though, Jack? Let's be honest. The roads down there have to be fixed.
Right.
Our bridges are old, right? It's part of our city's history.
It's all the infrastructure.
It is.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not, you know, something that people want to read about in the headlines, but they want to know that it works. And working with Mayor Jackson and working with Will Friedman from the Port Authority, we finally have a plan in place to figure out how do we begin to rebuild these roads? How do we make sure the hills don't slide into the water? And what do we do to make sure that the Flats is around for our grandchildren's grandchildren? And I think that we're on the right track. And just serving all the people who are down there, it makes me think that our best days are ahead.
Is there something going on with St. Episcopal Church down there? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's right there on the border of Ohio City and the Flats Forward community, which is St. John's Episcopal Church.
Okay.
St. John's Episcopal Church is the oldest standing sanctified structure in Cuyahoga County. It was built in the 1830s. It has always been a place of giving back to the community. It has always been a place that's witnessing Christ. Whether that meant in the 1850s and 1860s, that it was called Operation Waystation Hope. It was the most northern terminus on the Underground Railroad coming into Cleveland before you took the canoes to the steamers that then took you over to Canada. We think there were over 8,000 runaway slaves who were in the church tower for a period of 24 to 48 hours between the period of roughly 1855 till the Civil War ended, who fled to Canada. Not once was one person captured. And we were having this conversation the other day with the Episcopal Diocese because they want to reinvigorate the space. It was also the place where Russell Means, the American Indian movement activist, lived. It was also the city's first soup kitchen, right? So it's always been a place of giving back. But I was talking to some of the community people about it, and they told me this story that in Ohio City, around this church and in the Flats, there were all these bells that were fashioned on the outsides of the buildings that were used for when the slave catchers were coming up here. They would ring the bells to alert the slaves to go indoors. And when you think about what it takes to liberate people, what it takes to right wrong, to fight evil, for a city to build, it's never an individual process.
Right,
it's
right.
a community. It's a neighborhood. It's an army of believers. You know, Christ didn't have an apostle. He had 12 of them. You know, Jesus didn't say, go out and make a disciple. He had 72 disciples.
Right,
and it's like, how do you do that where you believe so much in each other that suddenly this community is that which says we are going to forward something that is beyond us? And what we're doing at St. John's right now is figuring out how can that place be an underground railroad presence to the people of Cleveland again. And it's only through the leadership of people like Bishop Hollingsworth from the Anglican Diocese, people who are working with us from the church, that we're going to really start to see that take off. And it's going to tell the story of Cleveland. It's going to tell the story of freedom, but more importantly, it's going to give us a blueprint for how we go forward.
You're a busy guy.
I'm a lucky guy.
Well, lucky and busy, but you also have to be a healthy guy.
You do.
And you're working on, 2.0, the health program in Cleveland. Tell me a little bit about that, because if you're not healthy, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Right.
So you gotta stay healthy.
And Jack, you know that. I mean, just we always pray to God for health. If something happens to you, at least you have your health. It's really the one thing that's a gift from God, and we can't take it for granted. The city of Cleveland, bar none, has the best health care in the world, right? People come here from the United Arab Emirates to get their health taken care of.
Right.
People come here from all over the world. And yet in our own city, we have communities where between the neighborhood of Huff and the neighborhood of Lyndhurst, people are living 24 years apart in terms of you die 24 years sooner in Huff than you do in Lyndhurst. And the sin, Jack, the sin during this Easter season, only the Lord knows our day or time. But half of those years between, of the 24 years, half of those years are attributable to smoking and diet. So what would happen if we would convince our young people, don't smoke? What would happen if we told them, you know what, we don't even have to take diabetes medication because you're not going to even be a diabetic? We would give years and years back to the people of Cleveland. So what does that make me think? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a public health professional. Only through the graciousness of council am I the chairperson of the Public Health Committee. And I will tell you that the Public Health Committee, I think we've got the best committee out of all the committees on council. I'm very proud of them. They're always pushing, working, fighting for social justice. when you think about what we're doing, we're maybe making it possible for a grandmother to see her grandbaby graduate.
Sure.
Maybe we're making it possible for a kid who, instead of being on oxygen by the time they're 18, actually lives a young, healthy, productive life. And so what we're trying to do with the mayor's leadership, Cleveland Clinic, University Hospital, Metro Hospital, Sisters of Charity St. Vincent, working with Karen Butler from the Public Health Department, is what kind of initiatives can we take that say to people, think again. Maybe decide to run the marathon this year. Maybe in the school district, by the time school opens after Labor Day this year, we will have a partnership with Vitamix where there will be smoothies in every cafeteria. Because I know one thing, as a little kid, I didn't want to eat broccoli, and I didn't want to eat spinach, and I didn't want to eat kale. But if you mix it with blueberry and yogurt, I'm going to drink that thing and say to myself, that's the best ice cream I ever had.
You sound like George Bush.
Seriously! You know, I mean, we got to trick our kids into health. But whatever it takes, and working with our leadership, we can do that. Right. And I've already seen people, I'll give you an example. In the city of Cleveland, we're one of the few cities in the country, it's actually illegal to smoke in a park. Right. People think it's counterintuitive. It's out in the open, who cares? Well, kids that are exposed to secondhand smoke, you know, do experience higher cases of lung cancer, you know, heart disease and other things. I have seen myself this summer in the beautiful parks that Director Cox administers, whether it's Fairview Park in Ohio City, Rockefeller Park on Martin Luther King Boulevard. I've been swinging with my daughter, my kids, and somebody will light up a cigarette and the signs are there, and inevitably a parent will go up to the person smoking and say, you can't smoke here, and the person says, I'm sorry, and they walk out of the park. What are we doing? We're taking care of each other. Yeah. Maybe the 100th time that person lights up, they think to themselves, what am I doing? Right. You know, and it's like, as someone who used to be a 3-pack-a-day smoker, when I was in college, and I was in college and I couldn't breathe, and I had seen my mom struggle with heart disease, my dad struggling with emphysema. I gave it up cold turkey. I will tell you right now, the greatest gift we can give to each other is the gift of health.
Well, and I'll tell you what, you're changing people's thinking, not only their health, but by changing their thinking, somebody not lighting up in a park, it's contagious, you know, no pun intended, but pretty soon people start thinking differently, and because of that, everybody starts, you know, reacting and acting a little bit differently as the quality of life for the community and for your ward. Speaking of health, you recently were brave enough to come forward, make some public comments about your mother's struggle with mental health, and basically the point you were making is that these cuts that we're hearing and seeing from Columbus, the governor wants to make, Cuyahoga County is really being put at a disadvantage in treating people that need therapy, that need medication for mental illness. Tell me a little bit about why you came forward, and we're so brave. It took a lot of bravery to do what you did.
I appreciate that. I had the most unbelievably happy, idealistic childhood of anyone I know. I grew up on East 74th in St. Clair in the 1970s and 80s. The neighborhood was African American, it was Puerto Rican, it was Appalachian, it was Eastern European. I had a beautiful childhood. And I look at my childhood sometimes as, it was like a story of two childhoods. It was up until I was 11 when my mom was healthy, and then after 11 when she got really sick. And she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which, you know, a lot of people know the 3 main mental health diseases are depression, which half of America is going to have before they die, where it's like the common cold of mental health, schizophrenia, which affects people mostly in their teens and early 20s, and then bipolar, which is that mood swing of depressed and manic. And because I saw my mom struggling with it and her being hospitalized 22 times over 11 years, and realizing that our insurance didn't cover her mental health as much as it would have covered her had she had another ailment that was physical, cancer or broken a bone. And there's this disparity out there as a nation that we have, but the disparity that I was trying to get to was the fact that we all know someone, whether it's the person we look at in the mirror in the morning, or it's a brother or sister, a child, or someone we care about, who is silently struggling with something that they should not struggle with. We can do more for each other. There's help out there. You've got the Adams Board in Cleveland. You've got resources throughout the community at the McCafferty Health Center, at the J. Glenn Smith Health Center. And sometimes, you know, Jack, you know, there's a benefit of coming out of the closet when mental health that has as much to do with you being honest with yourself as it does saying, you know what, there are more people like me than people are willing to admit. And the reason I talked about it there was because I think it's so important as a city, as a state, and as a country that we remember that mental health may not be curable, mental health illness, but it certainly is treatable. And I look at my own mom's situation. When she was on medicine, Jack, it was as if she didn't have the disease. We knew she did. Everyone knew she was sick, but it was that getting her to not only be diagnosed correctly, but then to take it. Sure. And, you know, God took her, you know, from this world, you know, when I was still a relatively young guy. But the last few years that she was on medicine and doing well and not leaving the house in the middle of the night for 4 or 5 days, living on the streets, those last few years when she was taking care of herself and we were able to take care of her, it was almost like God was giving us some time back with her that we had lost. Right. And I say to people, it doesn't have to be that bad. You know, there's help out there. People want to help you. And if a guy like me, you know, who was going to be, you know, I was wanting to be a Jesuit priest when I was a kid. I majored in, I was an undergrad in English. You know, I didn't have a political bone in my body before I started working on people's campaigns. If a guy like me, whose mom had bipolar, who grew up where I did, can do what I'm doing only through the grace of God, there are geniuses out there, these kids that I meet at St. Martin de Porres High School, at John Hay School of Science, at the School for the Arts. I see these kids at Garrett Morgan. I see them at Max Hayes. And I look at these kids and I'm like, you are going to be mayor. You are going to be the next Jack Marschall. Right. You are going to be the next CEO of Key Bank. What can we do to knock the nonsense out of their way? Whether it's baggage from somebody who has mental health needs, whether it's them not believing in themselves, those are the people that we live for, so let's live well for them. And
I have to ask you, when you made those comments in public, did you not find the majority of the people, or maybe 100% of the people who were there that day, I think 30 people there that day, and those that came after them, did they not embrace you and thank you for saying what you said, because knowing the impact it would have?
They, you know, people were grateful that we were talking about it because they could relate to it. Right. And people, Jack, that I won't name them, but people who the viewers know, 2 professional athletes, sure. People in elected life, a very prominent owner of a very successful business. And I didn't do it for that reason. I did it because I think it's important that people know people are struggling with this every day. There's a great saying at the beginning of the movie Lorenzo's Oil, and I love that movie, and there's the one part where in the beginning there's an African proverb, and it says, "Victory and defeat is in the hands of God. It is only in the struggle that we find meaning, so let us enjoy the struggle." And I think to myself, let's enjoy that struggle together. Yeah. You know, if we're sick, you know, let's make it half of a sickness. When you hide it, you make it twice the sickness. So what can we do to help each other? How do we serve each other? How do we put each other first? That is how we get to the mayor's vision of the city, which is whatsoever you do for the least of these, you do unto me. And if we're not doing that in the city of Cleveland, we're not Cleveland. But we are doing that in the city of Cleveland.
Well, again, you deserve a lot of credit, and I don't say that lightly. I know that it's hard for families, for loved ones to come forward, talk about mental health, mental illness, and even for people themselves who have a problem to share that with the public. And I know that 99% of those people that hear the message, it's a positive reaction that it has. We have a few more minutes left. You are an extremely busy guy. Give me a tease here for everybody watching on TV 20, and they're saying, okay, what's Ward 3? What's, you know, we know Tremont and we know Ohio City. What is on your plate? What's going on that really is exciting for you that you want to tell our viewers about?
Well, we're going to keep working at the West Side Market. We had a phenomenal year last year in the Centennial. We want the market vendors to do even better. We want more and more people to visit it. We're starting to see a campaign to launch Lorraine Avenue. What does that mean? Retail on the ground floor, people living on top. In Tremont, fingers crossed, we're going to bring a little grocery store to the neighborhood so that a walkable neighborhood can even be more so. A $3 million connection right in the middle of the Towpath Trail. Thanks to the mayor and Mike Cox and the community, Beverly Worm, and all the people from Tremont, it's going to be dynamic. Old Brooklyn, Brooklyn Center, we had a tough time with WC Reed Park. We had some chemical issues, environmental issues. God willing, that's going to be cleaned up. We're going to open that park up by the end of this year. The neighborhood's going to get a new park. It's going to be of benefit to them. We're excited about it. Moving downtown, we've got 14,000 people and growing downtown. You can't look without seeing a crane in the sky. How do we keep that momentum moving? Flats forward, we know everything that's going on there. We just have such an incredible opportunity. St. Clair Superior, the latent giant has become blatant. God bless that crazy Slovenian community. We've just had Corento Vanja, which is a spring rite of celebration.
I don't want to know.
We're gonna have Martino Vanja, and we are gonna show the St. Patrick's Day revelers what it really means to party in Cleveland.
Crazy Slovenians loose in Cleveland. I don't even want to think about it. I think that's gonna scare people.
You know what they say? They say when 3 Serbian people come together, they form a government. When 3 Croatian people come together, they form a business. When 3 Slovenians come together, they form a choir.
That's good. My wife is Slovak and Hungarian. When 3 people come together, they bake. That's all. That's all I can say. I've known that for 39 years. Joe Cimperman, Ward 3 City Councilman in the city of Cleveland. Thank you very much for being with us today. I just wish you would have been a little more fired up, a little more talkative. Wow, you have a lot on your plate, and we wish you the best of luck.
It's an honor to be with you, and it's an honor to serve the great people of this great city.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you.
And for the folks at home, thank you for joining us for Neighborhood News. I'm Jack Marschall, your host, and we hope to see you again real soon right here on TV 20. Thank you.